Time to prune the orchard. This is an apple tree, but most pruning can be done in any tree. You will need a set of pruners, alcohol, and a rag. So you want to create a scaffold for the tree where you have a central leader that comes up here, and you're going to bypass some of the strength of the central leader so that there'll be more branches that come off the central leader. Plus you want to create like a bowl so that it grows out like this and not so tall so you can't reach the fruit. And some of these techniques I picked up from other websites, some books. This is what I use. It doesn't mean it's the ultimate way to prune a fruit tree, but you can take some of these techniques that I've used over the years. So this tree has gone through bud break. It overwinters with just a small bud, and then they start to break out. It's called bud break. And this is a good time to start pruning. The tree is waking up from dormancy, and it's ready to start branching out, making leaves, and you want the growth of the tree to start producing fruit, and not just all leaves. All fruit trees will blossom, so part of the bud break and the leaf will turn into a bud and a flower, a blossom, and then it'll start making fruit. You also want to start cutting some of the branches that are on the inside, these smaller branches on the inside of the tree, so that the sunlight can get through the leaves and help open up the center of the tree so that the whole tree gets sunlight. If you have too much growth up top and you don't prune this, it grows leaves, and then the sunlight can't get into the center of the tree where there could be fruit that can grow. Ultimately, you'd like to have the fruit grow along some of the big stalk branches, and some fruit you like to grow out here, but the more fruit that's out on the branches, the more it weighs it down, a possible break of the branch. And there's a way to prune. You only want to prune about 1/3 of the growth from last year, and I'll show you how to see what first year, second year, and third year growth is as we go along and where we make our cuts. Let's start by cutting these center branches off. Get them out the center of the tree. They're basically just going to tangle and get in the way of the other branches that are on the inside. See how these two branches are coming together right here? They're eventually going to grow into each other and rub. This branch is going to grow into the big part of the tree here, and it'll just get entangled with the rest of the tree. So I always like to try to open up the centers. That's good for now. Here's more of a cross intersection. We just want to, this is all new growth from last year. See it has like a darker complexion than the gray part of the other bark. So you know that's probably second year, third year growth. New growth, I should say. Start taking some of these ones that we can eliminate now. Walk around the tree from a different angle. Just look at it. See where you see there are some problem areas. All these really long, non-branched branches where they don't have extra leaves or as small branches come out, that's all new growth. So we start at the top, you come down, and then you see how that's like a darker branch, and then it starts to get lighter and gray. So this is like new growth, second year growth. This is a central leader, which would be third year growth, and the whole tree itself is about 2 years old when you buy it. So we're looking at probably 5 years of growth here. And the further you get to the top, the more fuzzy it gets. That means it's even newer growth. And trees want to grow out from the top and keep growing longer. And that's where the leaves will start opening up from the top, and then they'll start opening up, coming down this way. Example of this branch here, we're going to focus on. So you don't want to take off more than 1/3 of this growth. This is all new growth. So you kind of like divide it up to thirds. So from about here to here, you want to take off. Even though you'll see lots of leaves and blossoms in about a week or two, you're like, oh, I don't want to cut that. it'll be better for the tree and it'll fruit better in the long run from years to come. So I want to make a cut somewhere in here. Now, if I cut the branch here straight up, which you don't want to do, you always want to cut at a 45. But if you cut straight up, this bud here can turn into a branch or leaves or fruit. And what's it going to do is it's just going to go and grow straight up from here, like straight up where the sun goes. You want to make a cut with a bud on the outside. So when it grows, it's going to grow out this way and up. And if you keep doing that going around the tree, it's going to create like a bowl or a cup, kind of like a wine glass. And the more branches that come out that way, the easier for you to pick the fruit instead of it being 20 feet tall or 12 feet tall. You want to create like a bowl that's be 8 to 10 feet tall. That's easier to grab the fruit. Cut it at a 45 to the branch. This would be a 90 to the branch. You want to cut it at a 45. Around the tree again, new growth. See how like the trees want to blossom from and grow from the top down. So these open up, and then all these other beds start to open and follow suit, and they'll keep working its way down. So this part right here will have the last bit of growth to bud. So we divide it up into thirds or so. So I want to cut this bud, this angle, and then we basically stop that vigorous growth going from the tip of the tree branch, and you want to concentrate the energy into these buds here. These will come in fuller and more blossoms. This is dead, this part to here. So we're going to just trim it, working our way around. Last year's growth, second year right at this junction right here. Second year growth, third year growth since I've had the tree. So the new growth I want to divide into thirds. It'll put me about right here. There's going to be a crisscross with this tree branch to this tree branch. See how they're going to intersect? We're going to cut it. People say, oh, you don't want to cut off too many branches, but you don't want them to intersect either. This branch here is kind of growing into the tree, straight up through all the rest of the branches. See, that goes straight up. We don't want that either. There's a bud here. It's a good possibility that will grow out. And go slow with your decisions. You don't have to be done with the tree in 10 minutes and say, that's it. If it takes a little while, it takes a while. If it doesn't, it doesn't. New growth from last year, quite a bit. Kind of divided into thirds. Gonna make from the tip here. Gonna make the cut pretty close to that bud. And that bud's on the outside, so it's gonna grow out this way. When you get these trees from the nursery, they're really pruned down and they grow out to be really nice looking trees. So I know those trees are about 2 years old, but they pretty aggressively prune those. They turn out to be good trees. So it's always a fear like I'm cutting too much off, but you definitely want to prune if you want to get fruit someday. This year's growth, it'll just keep growing longer and longer, and it'll be 15 foot high with very little out branching, and it'll devote all of its energy into growing taller. Prune it. Here, prune it. Like some nice growth here. Take it off. Keep coming around the tree, follow your lots of growth there. We can need to take some of that off. This bud will come out towards the camera. Instead of growing just straight out, it'll grow out this way. This one's fine. No pruning needed. Make that canopy, make it open up from the center. Bring it from here and I'll bring it out. This branch is okay, no pruning needed. Gonna step back and look at it. Okay, nice big growth. We're gonna cut it here, and we're gonna hope that this bud will grow out away from the tree. Look at those nice growth on the tips of the branches. Chop. New growth from last year. I had cut it last year right off at this part, and this grew out from here. So do we make a decision to cut it again lower? We just did. Yeah, bud right there. A couple more branches that are gonna cross each other. Gonna take this one too. I think we're done with that one. Nice and pruned.